Welcome everyone to our March webinar for AttorneySync, the 10 ways that lawyers can improve their paid search performance. I'm Kelly Street, the marketing director here at AttorneySync.
And I'm Tsakalakis, one of the founders of AttorneySync.
Super excited to talk about paid search today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. So let's go to our little agenda for what we're going to talk about today, which of course includes 10 ways that lawyers can improve their paid search. But we'll start off with just a brief overhaul on what paid search actually is, very brief. And then of course, why you should use paid search in addition to other marketing efforts that you're doing. And then we will dive into our 10 ways on how you can improve your paid search efforts.
Sounds fun. And for folks that are playing at home, feel free to submit questions through the Q&A interface. You should also be able to chat with us, I think, but definitely QA. We're happy to answer questions. Feel free to interrupt us if we say something that doesn't make sense. We prefer these to be interactive, but we've also got some prepared remarks as well. So let's jump right in. So what is paid search? So for people that are brand new to the internet, I suppose, this is a search engine result page. And as you can see, there are ads at the top of the search engine result page. In fact, in this example, it's all ads. So this is how Google makes most of their money right now. And these are the ads that they show up on desktop, mobile. There's all sorts of different features. We're not going to get into all of like the minutia of paid search as this part, but I think it's important for people to, if you've never seen a paid search ad before, this is what they look like. Hopefully most of you have seen them at this point, or else it's like, whoa.
Yeah, and I purposely, so I took this screenshot and I purposely just did the paid ads because at least on my regular size Mac laptop, this was the top fold. This was all I could see without having to scroll down. So kind of to just notate that paid ads are sometimes all you see when you do a direct search like this for Denver family lawyer. You might just see 4 paid ads and not any organic results below that unless you scroll down.
And why is that? Because this is how Google makes their money.
Yes, it's all about the money.
It's all about the money. Well, they got shareholders. All right, so how can it benefit law firms? I'm going to take a moment to pause and say, I don't know if it can benefit your law firm, right? I don't know anything. If you're an attendee today, I don't know anything about your practice, presumably, unless some of our friends are here. I don't know what your marketing budget looks like. So paid search advertising is not for everybody. It's not a cure-all. It's not a magic bullet. If people are trying to tell you that, oh, you're going to solve all of your business development challenges with paid search, you're not. Paid search can be very expensive. And I think the other thing that it's important to understand is that paid search is not the same as traditional advertising. So the reason I say this is because a lot of lawyers we talk to will say things like, oh yeah, I got a free $100 from AdWords. I opened an account. I bid on some keywords. I paid for some clicks. The phone never rang, or it was all people that were window shopping is a classic one that I hear. So if you're going to dabble into paid search, if you're a do-it-yourself person, which is great, you've got to spend the time to learn how it actually works. And you've got to connect the dots from click all the way to fee, because that's the only way you're going to get to return on ad spend. And you also have to ask yourself, is the value of my time better spent practicing law or managing my paid search ads? However, if you have a practice that people go online to do research about their life legal issues, or they do a more direct search for an attorney like you in your local area, and that's where your target audience is, then paid search can be an extremely effective way to advertise to potential clients. But it's not as simple as open an account, bid on a keyword, make it rain.
No. It can be beneficial If you're trying to just make sure you get on the search page though, and getting specific targeting. Love
Sure.
it.
So that was kind of that was the warning, I suppose. So, and the qualifier that it's important that you really take some time to understand and connect the dots for from click all the way to some kind of valuable business metric for your practice. But let's talk about some ways to improve paid search. Some of these things are hopefully a little more nuanced. We try to bake in some basic tips as well as some more intermediate and advanced stuff. Again, if you have questions, feel free to hop on there and let us know. So this was a recent email exchange that I had. I'll read it. Key, I thought I could give you access to the PPC campaign that my firm had run, but I don't think I can. The company that had been handling my company's PPC says that all of their PPC is run out of their agency account and they control all their clients under that one account. So tip number one, own your account and data. People, there are so many reasons why this is so important. The most basic are that as you advertise in AdWords, your campaigns actually develop value over time based on performance. Number two is that you should have full transparency into the data that you're spending money. I can't tell you how many times I see paid search agencies that won't report on even the bare minimum things that Google requires. So things like how much money is being spent, what's your cost per click. Ideally, you're getting details into conversion data, and again, you can tie clicks and keywords all the way to fees. That's a little bit more advanced, but you need to own this stuff. Google has all sorts of documentation about how you can link your own accounts to agency accounts. There's really no reason, in my opinion, for an agency to claim that they own your data and that they can't give you access to it or access to your account because it's in their master agency account. That should be a big red flag. Own your account and data. All right, closing the loop. So the famous John Wanamaker, which, I know we attribute this quote to him. I've attributed it to him in the past, but I think there might be some question of whether it's officially his. But in any event, for now, we give John credit for this.
Yes, I didn't do any research on whether whether this quote came from him or not.
No, that's fair, because in that link, the link at the bottom also is my article in the Law Practice Today.
I think. Yes. And to participants, I will send out that link afterwards in the email so you can access the article that Guy wrote.
So I used it in that link, so that's fair. Or I used it in that article, so it's fair that if it's misattributed, it's my fault, not Kelly's. So I've been saying this since for a long time, but even today you're going to hear me say this again and again and again. You got to close the loop from click to fee. So what that means is that from someone clicks on one of your ads to they come to your website or your landing page or wherever you send them, to inquiring about your services, whether that's through a phone call, a form fill, a live chat request, download something, whatever it is you're trying to get them to do, all the way to they paid you money or you recovered money if you're a plaintiff lawyer. And again, that stuff can, as we know, for plaintiffs lawyers who are listening, it can take a long time for a fee to matriculate, right? Sometimes it can take years in a complicated case. But your system needs to be able to track the click all the way to the fee, because at the end of the day, that's the only way you're going to be able to measure return on ad spend. If you don't do that, you're always going to have to fall back on some kind of proxy metric for success, whether that's cost per acquisition of a lead or cost per acquisition of a potential client, or you're going to try to focus on things like cost per click or impressions, which those don't tell you a lot about success. I mean, Google wants you to buy clicks from them. They're not as concerned whether or not those clicks are actually profitable for your firm. That's your responsibility, or if you're working with a partner, that's the partner's responsibility to prove that to you. So I always say, get the back end fixed first. Make sure you've got whether it's a CRM or a case management tool, get your in-process fixed. That's another thing too. if your intake process is send people to voicemail, I don't suggest you use AdWords because people's attention spans are short, especially for people that are on some of these, high intent legal keywords. If you don't answer the phone, if you don't follow up with them quickly, they're going to move on to the next one. There's a lot of other options out there. More lawyers per capita than anywhere else in the world, and so it's competitive. And the clicks are expensive, so you can tear through, especially in head terms, you can tear through clicks, hundreds of thousands of dollars pretty fast. So make sure that back end's fixed first. Track the entire process. Ask for things. You should be looking for things like cost per client, cost per acquisition, and ideally you're tracking all the way to return on ad spend, so you can actually say, I spent X and I made X plus Y. And check out that link because I talk more about some of the systems and software that you can use in that article if I think that might be useful. And like Kelly said, she'll make sure everybody has that. Negative keyword, the competition. So this is a little bit more controversial. This is actually a recent, I think is in, I should put the link in here, but I think it's a business, maybe Business Insider. Anyway, a Texas company is ordered to stop using Columbus attorney's name in Google searches. So basically, legal marketing agency was bidding on competitor names for their client, and they got sued and they lost. Now, I think there's probably at best a split in authority on this. I've seen cases that have come out that support bidding on, that say it's okay, that it's permissible. I think Google is going to weigh in on this because Google's policies is that you can bid on the keywords, but you can't use trademarks and ad copy, obviously. But this is one that recently came out. I think I first saw this on Conrad Sam's site at Mockingbird. So he wrote this up, so I got to give him credit for that. So my recommendation is that you add negative competitor names to your keywords, and I'm going to tell you why. The theory is for why you would actually bid on a competitor term is that someone that's looking for another firm, you might be able to steal them away. You might be able to, the marketers call that conquesting, right? So, I'm going to try to use an outside of legal example, but say this is going to be not a very good example, but say you're Coke and you want to get people that drink Pepsi to buy Coke. You might bid on Pepsi and AdWords. No one shops for Pepsi and Coke on AdWords like this, but that's why it's a bad example. But you might bid on Pepsi to say, hey, you like Pepsi? Try Coke, right? So same type of thing here. You might say you're looking for lawyer A, find out why lawyer B is better, or get a second opinion or something like that. So two things. One is that you're going to pay a premium to try to conquest those terms. And most of the time, you're just going to confuse the person who's searching. So they're looking for the phone number or the contact information for lawyer A. It's very unlikely that you're going to have success conquesting in that manner, in my opinion. Again, I know lawyers that have done it, but I'm going to tell you another thing too. There's a reputational component to this, which is you're not going to make a lot of friends in your community trying to bid on other lawyers' names. There's a question, I think, in many states of whether this would fall under misleading advertising, depending on what your ad said and that kind of stuff. And like I said, I think it's from a reputational standpoint, it's not going to make you a lot of friends. You're better off creating, nurturing, and solidifying professional relationships, not disenfranchising other lawyers in your community. So I recommend adding negative keywords. The nice thing too is if you add those names as negative keywords, you can open up your bid strategy to include more, things like broad match modified, because now you're going to weed out a lot of those other lawyer names. I know that might be a little bit tricky what I'm talking about. So you can go check out what broad match modified means and how to add negatives. The simple version is add your competitors' names to negatives in your campaigns. And I'll also say one more thing. Sometimes you're going to see that even if you exact match on a non-brand query, Google matches you to a search term for a lawyer's name, and there's really not much you can do about that. Certainly another reason though to add that, to add the negative competitors' names to your negative keyword list. So enough about that. Maximize keyword ad copy and landing page relevance. So this is like 101 stuff, right? So we see all the time that someone will bid on, say they bid on personal injury lawyer as a keyword, and then their ad copy says something more general, like, you know, protect your rights. And then their landing page includes 5 different practice areas on it. Don't do that. Number one, it's not going to be responsive to what the searcher is looking for, which is the most important thing, because Google's going to use that in determining things like ad quality, your ad quality and the quality scores that Google assigns to you can impact your cost per click. So you might be spending more than your competitors if you have landing pages that aren't relevant to the ad copy and the keywords that you're bidding on. So Google lays out a whole bunch of recommendations of how to do this, but the more relevant that your keywords, ad copy, and landing pages are, the more specific they are and more closely connected, you're gonna get better quality scores, you're gonna get better click-through rates, you're gonna get better conversion rates, and ultimately you're gonna get lower cost per acquisition and better return on ad spend, generally speaking. So keep that stuff very tightly relevant.
So Guy, for landing pages, a quick question on that for everyone. Are you talking about, or is it your recommendation to have a separate landing page that's just tied to a specific ad? Is that one of the tracking measures that you would suggest?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've seen lawyers do it different ways, and I've seen it work multiple ways. Sometimes lawyers will drive directly to like a practice area page on their website or something like that that's specific, but my preference is to use dedicated pages, have a because you can, the other thing that this is different than organic, right? Paid search, you can have a lot more control over your message. So you can control what shows up in the ad copy and what shows up on the landing page. And I do think you want it, I'm not for the totally stripped down direct response only landing pages in all cases. I think that providing, having site links that are like to a dedicated, like call it like a section of pages that are specifically designed for paid search can work really well. So, you have the page that you send them to, and maybe you have a couple other links like some bio information, maybe a page of the video so that you can give the searcher, a more personalized experience. But I don't like the idea of just driving them to like a home page of your website, especially for firms that have multiple practice areas and multiple attorneys. And so, the more relevant that you make that landing page, more specific to both the ad copy messaging and the keyword bids, you tend to have better success and lower cost per acquisition.
Yes, great.
All right. Call only campaigns. So these have been great. Basically what they do is they kind of short circuit the landing page thing. What they do is that they prompt the user when they click on the ad to actually call the firm. And so, it doesn't work for all categories, and it doesn't work for every type of query, because sometimes people are like in the research phase and they're going to be reluctant to dive right into a call. But for more of the direct response, the business lookup, the local lawyer lookup type searches, it's great because you're going to connect to them, to the, if they choose to click and it goes right to the phone call, you're going to be able to talk to them. You're going to be able to identify whether they might be a potential client. You're going to have less loss in the conversion process for people that might abandon your landing page or don't engage with your landing page. So I've seen these work really well. If you're going to do them, I would be, focus on mobile, because obviously there's no click to call, there's no call only on desktop, and make sure that your ads are taking consideration mobile intents. There's people that use phones to do these lookups. It's different than people that are on desktops that might be doing more deep research or while they're at work. So another thing too is keep in mind that time of day matters more on mobile, location matters a lot more on mobile. Those contexts are really important to keep in mind when you're actually creating these call-only campaigns. And just like everything else, it's very important that you've got people answering the phone. So don't send people to voicemail. Don't run ads when you don't have people answering the phone, and train staff to efficiently do intakes so you can identify like, hey, this is a potential client for us, or this is wrong category, or you're gonna refer it out. Remember, these people, this is, your ads are out there in the public, and if you dilute them too much, if you're showing them to too big of an audience, if you're showing them to too large of a geographic area, if you're not answering the phone, if you're not answering their questions, you're going to pay for a lot of clicks and calls, but not necessarily as many conversions. But we have seen a lot of success with call-only campaigns, so I think it's something to explore if you haven't used them before.
Yeah, one note I want to make on the, Guy, you mentioned keeping the ads local. One thing that I've seen and read a lot of articles about that's really helpful is adding your neighborhood that your offices are in, or that you're trying to target to those ads. So where I live, we have a neighborhood called Kingfield. So if you're, Kingfield family lawyer, and that targets so people in your neighborhood or who are searching when they're at home or watching TV, that they can go, oh, okay, this person's right in my neighborhood, they're local, I can get to them, give them a call, and I'll be able to walk a couple blocks and get there.
Totally. And I think that's an important thing, to have those conversations with the people who manage your campaigns, because a lot of times they're not familiar with the local language, right? So they don't know the community language. They might not be focused on like neighborhoods or zip codes or intersections. And there's a lot of opportunity in those if you serve clients on a local basis, bidding on queries and keeping that location tight can help a lot in conversion, because it's a very custom, personal, local experience for people that are clicking on your ads. So that's a really good point. Mobile-friendly ads and landing pages. So again, this is kind of 101 stuff, but I've seen lawyers who are bidding on keywords for mobile devices, and their landing page experience is not optimized. You got to pinch and swipe and zoom, and can't find any contact information. And this is true for ads as well as landing pages. So I've also, especially in the display ad arena, if you're showing banner ads to people on smartphones, you don't have a lot of space. So trying to put in complicated marketing messages or a lot of text, people can't read it, it's too small. So make sure that you're testing those. If you're gonna bid on mobile, make sure your ads and your landing pages are optimized for mobile. And Google has a lot of AdWords documentation on how to test, dimensions, formats. You can test it right in AdWords to see what it looks like. But again, if you're not kind of looking at those things in advance, and you're opening an account, bidding on all devices, running some ads, and you're not thinking about what it looks like on mobile, don't be surprised when you're like, oh, I paid for a bunch of clicks and nobody called and nobody inquired at all, because they can't actually see the text on your page or where your phone number is, and yada, yada, yada. So make it super easy for people to be able to see your ads and understand your ads and landing pages, and very easy for them to contact you. So don't hide the contact form. Make a mobile click to call at the top of your landing pages, so that if someone's flipping through and they see your landing page and they're sold, make it very easy for them to be able to contact you and follow up. All right. Define and optimize to target cost per client. Oh, there it is again. I think I've said it now 6 times. But if you're not getting, if you're at least not getting to cost per client. So if you're not saying, I know that my average client, or my ideal client, average ideal client, I think is what Matt Homan says. I think it's Matt Homan's term. I might have messed that up. Might be somebody else's. But average ideal client, understand what the value in fees that client is, and then you need to be acquiring whatever your advertising is. It has to generate those clients for less, some multiple less than what you're paying to acquire them. So that's what we mean by cost per client, the cost that it takes to acquire that client. And it's got to be some multiple less than what the fee is. I know in like personal injury lawyer will tell me, well, my client could be millions of dollars, or it could be $6,000, depending on the nature of the case. And I get that, that's what I used to do in a former life. And however, there are segments of search terms and queries that you can get into to say, look, on average, this group of queries tends to generate higher fees. So especially when you're bidding on terms that are surrounding like some kind of specific injury. So like, maybe you're doing brain injury, like your brain injury cases, you might have some data that's a great idea. Have some data on what your average fee is in a particular segment of your audience. And so you can start to say, these are our targets. If you can't do that, at least try to target cost per lead, right? So you can say, look, I know that over 100 potential client inquiries, this many tends to turn into this amount of fee. So you can model it and say, I can spend, $100 or $1,000 to get a qualified lead. But if you're just focusing on kind of the front end marketing metrics like impressions and clicks, you're never going to be able to answer John Wanamaker's question of, is your advertising spend actually working for you, or which half of your advertising spend is working? You got to connect it to money metrics, business metrics, revenue, fees, profit, cost per client. That's it. Okay, conduct statistically significant tests. So this one drives me insane. People say you got to test. We're testing all the time.
A/B testing.
A/B tests, multivariate tests. We do a lot of testing. Well, your tests have got to be statistically significant, okay? And you can go and look, if you're not a math person, go look what statistical significance means. There are statistical significance tools, calculators, that you can actually plug in, like if I get this many clicks with this version and this many clicks with this version, and this is what I'm testing, and I get this many difference in conversions, it'll tell you how statistically significant your findings are. Like Unbounce has got a tool for this. I think Optimizely has a tool for this. So a lot of the ad testing platforms have tools, but just saying that you're doing testing and then being like, oh, we showed this landing page with a blue button and this landing page with a red button, and red button had one more conversion, so red must be better. No, that happened to be an anomaly in that test. There has to be some statistical significance in order to draw those conclusions. Otherwise, you're going to just be chasing your tail on, up this week it's red, next week it's blue, up green worked this time. So make sure that if you're running these tests that you're actually getting tests that are statistically significant. The other thing to keep in mind is that, especially for like these more expensive keywords, it takes time and spend to get to statistical significance. So there's a huge data scarcity problem. If you're spending $1,000 a month on ads and it's $100 a click, and you're getting 10 clicks, it is extremely unlikely you're going to get anything statistically significant in a month. In 10 months, maybe, depending on what your conversions look like. But it's important to understand that kind of stuff so that you're not getting sold by like this shiny, oh, we do testing, test, A/B test. Oh yeah, we got A/B test down. Like what did we conclude from the A/B test that we're actually using to improve performance? Write why ads. That's kind of enigmatic. What does that mean?
Why should people work with you?
Right, exactly right.
What service are you offering to them?
Right.
Can you help them with a problem they have?
Exactly.
Can you get them money if they're looking for money? All of those things.
Yeah, I think the one I like that you said first is, why should somebody work with you? That's the big why, right? Like, why are you uniquely qualified to help this person? The marketing and sales people will tell you unique value proposition or unique selling proposition. If you want to go research those things, but what is it about you that is unique? Whether it's knowledge, skill, experience, whether it's your tech savvy, whether you're, you have an excellent client service process, something has to jump off the page to the user to say, this is why you're uniquely qualified. Otherwise, if you're in the mix, so if someone's clicking on ads and they're like, oh, another lawyer with 100 years of this experience, that fights aggressively and you know, went to a great law school, people are gonna be like, oh, I've seen this message 100 times. So really think about why. What is it that you can do? If you're a younger lawyer, if you don't have a ton of experience, you got to think about some other competitive advantage that you might have, that you can actually use in your ad copy and your landing pages. You know, for some lawyers I've seen, depending on the type of practice you have, maybe price is your unique selling proposition. I don't like to sell on price personally, but I have seen a lot of lawyers, you know, in certain practice areas it makes sense, certain types of practices it makes sense. But you know, think about what it is that is your why. Super important. And this is true outside of paid search too. This is true everywhere. Whether you're networking, whether you're doing content organically or on social media, you've got to have your why, or else you're going to get lost in the, you know, pile of lawyers that is building up every 6 months.
Yeah, an example, if you know you're the only lawyer in your practice area, in your geographical area that offers flat fees, you know, flat fee blank attorney. I saw one that is pretty generic, but even though I wasn't looking for or when I was doing these searches, I was not looking for a family lawyer, but I saw in one of my searches, friendly family lawyer. And it's pretty generic, but it still made me kind of pause and go, oh, friendly, that's
different.
Gave me warm and fuzzies, and it was different than aggressive family lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for aggressive or if you're looking for friendly, those could stick out to you. But things like that, and if you have your very own little brand, are really great to add.
Put in your ad.
Yes.
Apply Search Console data. So for those that are more advanced search marketers, you will know that a long time ago, Google used to give us keyword data in Google Analytics, meaning that when someone did a search and they clicked through to your site, you could say, oh, hey, they came through because of this search. And then Google took that away from us, which was a huge disappointment to search marketers all over the world because of privacy reasons. But you know, it's okay for them to use keyword data in paid search, but that's a conversation for another day. Fortunately, they gave us they still give us keyword data in Search Console. So if you have, you can look in, so this is the Search Console data, so is how your performance in organic, so organic search results. And the nice thing is that it will show you impression data showing, you know, how many times people searched for a particular query, even if you don't rank very well for it. So let's say, you know, we're stuck on personal injury lawyer, so we'll stick with that. So let's say you rank for Chicago personal injury lawyer, but you rank on like page 3. And you're working to get on the page, you're trying to get into the top spots organically, but you know that when people do come to your site for that query, it tends to convert well. You can then say, hey, I might want to bid on that keyword, right? So you can use your organic keyword data to inform your AdWords strategy and vice versa. So the great thing to do is take your AdWords keywords, especially if you're doing like a harvesting campaign where you're trying to identify more long tail queries that might be lower cost per click. You can find a lower competition, lower cost per click, longer tail query. You can use that information from AdWords to inform your content strategy on the organic side. And now, instead of having to pay for that keyword, maybe you can actually rank for it organically. And now you've actually, you know, you're getting that traffic for that targeted query for free. So Search Console data and AdWords data should work together to inform your strategy. There's a lot to be, you can benefit a lot from sharing, you know, making sure those accounts are linked. So you link your Google Analytics, AdWords, and Search Console accounts, and you can see all that data all in the same interface, whether it's in Analytics or in AdWords. And in fact, AdWords has a, an organic report right in AdWords, so you can see like how your visibility looks compared to what you're doing in your ad campaigns. So those things should work together. Oh, thank you. That was 10. We already went through 10. Yeah, we didn't put any numbers on, so we didn't know yet. So again, I think big picture takeaways here. Number 1, paid search advertising is not for everybody. You really have to understand who your audience is, where they're going to find information, how they're using search engines, how they're using whether they click on paid, they tend to click on your target audience tends to click on paid ads in the first place. 2 is, if you're going to do this yourself, put the time in to learn. This is not open an account, bid, yay, money comes. So you got to do the work to actually learn how to do it, or you got to hire somebody that can help. If you're hiring somebody to help you, own your data. There's no excuse. It's your account, your data. I strongly encourage you to learn more about companies that are hiding the ball on that. It's not cool. Don't do it. It's a mobile world, so all the things we talk about, mobile optimized ads, mobile optimized landing pages, call-only campaigns, make sure that everything looks right on mobile devices and that you're thinking about the mobile contexts in your advertising campaigns. And then focus on relevance, focus on performance, close the loop, tie it all back to fees when you can. If you can't tie it back to a fee, at least cost per lead, the very least. Don't rely on indirect marketing metrics like impressions and clicks, because you'll never get to the answer to John Wanamaker's famous question of whether or not, or which half of your advertising dollars are working, because you have to connect those marketing metrics to business metrics.
Absolutely.
The end.
Yes.
Questions, comments, you can click the question and answer. We'll hang around for a few minutes and babble more about paid search. And of course, you can always email us to get questions answered. And if you're interested or have suggestions for future webinars or a podcast topic you'd like us to cover, Kelly and I are all ears.
Yes, and if you haven't checked out our Clienting podcast, available on iTunes or always on the AttorneySync website, definitely check that out. And we are always looking for guests who have something interesting to say about marketing in the legal field or just marketing and client development in general. So open to hearing those suggestions too.
All right. Well, no questions. So I think we're gonna call this a wrap. Thanks for everybody who joined, and stay tuned for our next webinar, and I'm out.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Guy.